session. It's a Power BI session, but you're going to be learning Power Query. And the good thing about Power Query is anything you learn in Power Query, you can apply in every other tool that's got Power Query, like Excel and even the web data gen tools that have Power Query. So today we've got someone who is full of energy. Since I met him last year, I have not seen anyone to compare his level of energy and enthusiasm. And I see how much he teaches people at different colleges, at different sessions. And he's very active in the Canada Power BI space. And it's an honor to have him. His name is Lissandro Maciel. I'm going to read his profile as we go on, but he's the one who's going to handle this session today. This session is brought to you by your BZEDGE and MHS Analytics. Your BZEDGE is a Nigerian Microsoft Excel data analysis, financial modeling, and a Power BI consulting and solutions firm. And we have some resources that were made available to people for free. So maybe I'll share the links in case you're interested. MHS Analytics is the Canadian arm, and they provide similar services, but tailored more to the North American market and also European market. So today we've got the honor and privilege to host Lissandro. He's a senior business intelligence and data analyst. In fact, I wrote here over 15, but I think he's got over 20 years industry experience, and working with large organizations across the North and South America. So we are honored to have him here. Like I said, he's enthusiastic about teaching, so it's not unexpected that he's got Microsoft certified trainer certification. He's also got a lot of professional certification, and I'm going to share his LinkedIn connect link so you can connect with him. He's the kind of person you want to have in your connection so that you don't miss out from updates from him. And so right now I'm going to hand over to him, and like I said, you can ask your questions, and at the end he will take care of the questions. But over to you, Lissandro. It's an honor. Thank you very much for accepting to present to us today. I'll stop sharing my screen so you can take over the screen share.
Okay, Michael, can you hear me?
Perfect. Yes, all good.
Nice. Thank you so much for the introduction. I would like to congratulate you and the team for this amazing initiative about contribute to the community to sharing knowledge. It's amazing. I checked the material, your background. It's amazing, and I think it's making easier for anyone to get deep in the knowledge and apply more and more ideas. And I believe so much in that, in sharing in the community power, right? So let me share my screen here.
Yeah.
I believe you can see my screen,
Good.
right?
Yes. Yes, correct. Yes. Go on.
Okay. So the idea here today is to bring an idea that I saw in a previous project I was working for. And I believe this approach is not available in English, at least as far as I went my research I did. And I really think it can be useful for many different situations in business areas when we have a situation where we need to measure the KPI of a person, of a team, based on the how long the person took to solve one specific task. And we can see that in help desk situations, or in projects, or in different other functions. So when the person has to uh, start dealing with one subject, and by the end of the work, he has to stop the time, and then the time is counting how many hours the person took to finish the job. And sometimes that can be tricky because we have to consider holidays, we have to consider the work time of the company. So I have been there before, and when I saw this solution in this project, I made some updates to make it easier to understand, especially anyone who is not so familiar with Power Query and AIM language and so on. And this way, I believe more people can apply a similar approach and leverage the benefits of this option, right? So let's start here. Mike already made an introduction for me. Thank you for that, Michael. It's an honor to be here. Just to summarize and reinforce, I am a MCT, Microsoft Certified Trainer, since 2021. And I strongly believe that this brings together two parts of my personal view that I enjoy so much. One is to deal with analytics. So my background is from business areas, and I used to work with Excel a lot. That was my beginning. Then I was presented to Power BI, and I was really positive surprised by the features of the tool. And then I start to apply Power BI and being asked to deliver trainings. So I work as a business intelligence analyst. I work with a Power BI on a daily basis, and analytics is a passion for me. But also I have a passion to help people around me, because I already got help when I was starting. So I feel like I'm reciprocating the favor that I got, and this way I can fulfill and simulate more people to do the same, and this way together we can be stronger. So I have the certifications on top of MCT. I have certifications about Excel and Power BI. The last one was PL 300, and that's the kind of profile that I bring here to share a little bit of my experience with you guys. I hope you guys enjoy. There is a small dashboard to showcase my experience. Most of the trainings I already delivered are about Power BI. We can see it here. But I also deliver trainings about Excel. I always teach in ILAC International College and other education institutions. So here we can see I already had more than 1,000 attendees. And in the dashboard, I can see I started that basically in 2019. Over time, last year was dedicated to my post-graduation. I had to decrease a little bit. And this year I'm coming back a little bit more, and I do those trainings and sessions through many company partners. Those are the ones who organize the sessions, and also for customer companies. So both for open public and customer companies, those trainings I have experience with. Okay, so if you like, you can read the QR code and check the dashboard live. Okay, moving on. So first of all, for this content I'm bringing to you guys here, I was not the only one building the solution, right? So I would like to make here some special things for direct collaborators in this presentation content, which are Marcos Seppa, a friend that was working the same project I was, is a training project. And in the customized questions, the company was asking for a solution to solve this kind of situation, to summarize, to count how many hours between 2 points, considering holidays, consider the work times. And Marcos was the first one to find one possible solution, and the solution came from a YouTube channel called Data Become. It's a Brazilian YouTube channel. We got the solution from there. We test the solution. We make small adaptations, and we organize here, this time in English, to make it easier for anyone outside Brazil to leverage and use this approach to. Okay, so thank you so much, Marcos. Thank you so much, Data Become YouTube channel. I'm going to move on to present our teamwork. Okay, let's move on. Here, our presentation objectives. So we are going to talk here, calculation of how many business hours between two date times moments. Considering customized holidays list, we know that different companies can have different lists of holidays or days when employees doesn't work. and customize work hours. So the time where usually the company starts to work in the day, usually 8 a.m., 9 a.m., that can be some variations. And also the time when they finish working, sometimes 5 p.m., sometimes 6 p.m. And this way, we need to consider those as inputs for the calculation of the business hours, right? And this approach is focused for large databases. So there can be many different ways to make this kind of calculations. And depending on how large is your database, the calculations can become a little bit complex, and the performance can be decreasing depending on the situation. So this approach is made on Power Query, especially to address this kind of large database to make the performance as fast as possible, considering all those inputs. Okay, so let's move on here. We are going to see that in a few minutes in the demo. So features here in this approach, we are going to use Power Query, as Mike already mentioned. And to address large databases, we are going to use Power Query parameters, customized functions, and a little bit of M language functions. So it's a topic that can be a little bit advanced, depending on your experience, your background in Power BI. And most of my concern here today is to make it break it down as much as possible to make it easier to understand. Even so, if you are starting with Power Query, starting with M language, and this way we can apply this solution even so you have large database to deal with. Okay. Moving on here. So let's talk about the business problem. So to illustrate here the situation that we are going to address, usually business areas can have performance measures or KPIs based on the time spent on a task. So in this board here, I have some days of the week here on the top, and here I have the times of the day. So starting from 0 to 24. So let's say the task start here on Friday at 2 p.m. Okay, and the test was ended here by the employee or the team on Wednesday by 10 a.m. So usually, if we just make the calculations of the difference between those two date and time moments, we are going to consider all those hours here. And in total, we would have here 115 hours. If we sum up all the hours from day by day here on the top, we would have 115. However, if you are in the position of the employee doing that task, tackling that task, working that task, it might not be fair to consider that you took 115 hours because we are talking here about Saturdays and Sundays. We are talking here about times of the day, like this area, probably around here and here. When the company is closed, I cannot work without making extra hours in that time frame. Okay, and then we start to consider. Okay, let's consider the work hours of the company. So in this case, the same task starting and finishing at same points, they would take only 40 hours if we remove the times of the day when the company is closed. Okay, so because of that, the calculation has to consider what time does the company opens and what time does the company close every day. Okay, that's one first point. But that's not everything. We also need to consider the weekends. So here, in this time frame, we have 2 days of weekends. So if we remove the times here from those 2 days, we are going to have the green area here with the actual hours between the beginning and the end of the task. So in this case, from 40 hours, we would have here 22 hours. And there can be a holiday among those days. So the next step here is to also consider the holidays when the company is closed. We can't consider this part of the time as part of the time that the employee took to finish the task. So considering all those three inputs, weekends, work hours, and holidays, we would have here only 13 hours counting in this example here between the start of the task and the end of the task. So 2 hours here on Friday before the company closed, the whole day on Monday, and 2 hours in the beginning of the day of the Wednesday. Okay, so that's what we are looking for. So let's see how this approach can address this kind of situation in Power Query. Let's see the Power BI solution I can bring here today as a suggestion. Okay, so I have my Power BI open here, and I believe we can make available the files I'm going to use, so you guys can try to use that too. If we don't find that on YouTube and you are really interested, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I can try to help you to replicate the same solution by yourself so you can understand better and practice yourself to really apply the knowledge. Okay, so I have my Power BI open here. And to apply this solution, I'm going to use a task table here in this Excel file. This task table has one row for each task starting and beginning at some point in time. So it's like a help desk team in each row has one task to deal with. Starting, the task was requested at this day, this hour, and they have to register there what time they finish, they close the task. Okay, so that's the idea of this table tasks. Then we have here the table holidays, and that's the list of the holidays the company considers that we need to take in consideration to not counting the hours of the holidays as hours of the team working on the task. Okay, and here we also have the function code, developed by the original solution that I reorganized here to make it in English, and I'm going to talk about that too. So those are the three inputs for our Power BI file, the PBIX. Okay, so let's start here. The solution is divided here in 10 steps, okay? I'll try as much as possible, try to break down in steps so you guys can follow and apply that yourselves too, okay? So first steps to bring here inside Power BI, the task table with the rows registering what time does the team start working the task and what time does the team finish working the task. So I'm going to say here on the top, on the home menu, I'm going to click here, Excel workbook, because I already know the table is in Excel format. So I'm going to navigate here. I'm going to say tasks, and I'm going to open the file. Power BI is going to take us to the next screen. There's only one sheet inside this Excel file, and that's how the file looks like. We have here a serial number. That's the number how Excel and Power BI deal with dates and times. Usually the unit of the serial number is days, and the fractions are the time of the day. So half day would be there like 0.5, and that would mean 12 hours. So let's keep that in mind. So this column is the opening date time, and this other column is the closing date time. And the business areas wants to calculate here how many hours we have between those two dates and times, but discounting and considering holidays, consider the opening and closing of the company. So that's our challenge here. So I'm going to click here in transform data to take this small table, this simple table to the Power Query screen. Power Query is going to load here, and I can see here opening date time, closing date time as we saw in the preview. And there is one row empty. I'm going to remove this row. We don't need this row. I'm going to say here, remove top rows. So in the menu home, you can find the button here, remove rows, and you can click remove top rows to remove this row here that we don't need. Okay, I'm going to say do that here again. Remove top rows. I have the screen, and here I'm just going to say one. I want to remove this one, just one row on the top that I want Excel to remove, Power BI to remove. Let me click here, OK. And then I have only the rows with actual values. I just added here one step, remove the top rows. And now I'm going to change the format, the type of data in each column here to date time. So I'm going to say here, this is date time. And this other one here, date time 2. So those serial numbers now are shown like date and time. So this first test was started in April 1st at 9:44 a.m. 2021, and it goes up to July 13. So some months here between those two dates at 10:34. So that's one example of the values we have here. And let's move on to calculate how many hours, business hours, we have between those 2 points, considering holidays, considering weekends, and considering the times of the opening and closing of the company. Okay, good. So this table I'm going to change the name here for task to make it more intuitive and organized. And next step is to create the parameters we are going to use to consider what time does the company start working every day and what time does the company finish working, finish the shifts every day. So that's the second step. So I'm going to come here to the top menu home. I'm going to click here and manage parameters. I'm going to click here and say new parameter. That's the option I'm going to select. And my first parameter is going to be the start work. I'm going to call start work the day, the time of the day that the company start the work for all the employees. Okay, so start work is going to be the type time, and I'm going to say here this company usually starts working at 9 a.m. Okay, so that's the first parameter. Start working, type time, and current value, I'm going to say 9. Okay. If you are following my steps, you can do that too. So I'm going to hit OK. And then we have here the parameter created. Now I'm going to create another parameter with the end of the work. What time does the company finish the shifts every day? So I'm going to say parameter, manage parameters. I'm going to say new parameter. And this one is going to be end work. I'm going to say type as time again. And this time I'm going to say 6 p.m. expressing as 18 o'clock. So new parameter, end work, type time, current value 18. Let me say OK. And we have here the new parameter. Okay. So now we have one input to our example here, which are the tasks, beginning and end of each task. And we are looking forward to calculate the hours between the beginning and end of each task. We have one parameter here, which is the start and end of the work of the company. And now we are missing here one more parameter, which is the holiday list. What are the days considered as a holiday for the company? So let me go here up in new source. On the superior menu home, new source, you have Excel workbook. And by clicking here in Excel workbook, I can see the other table, holidays. In our case, holidays Excel LSX. Let me click here, open. Power BI is going to process, and we have only one sheet inside this Excel file, and the sheet brings the holidays as a serial number too. Okay, so the holidays don't have fractions in the serial number because the whole day of the holiday is considered a day when people don't work. And here we have only the date itself. So let's say here, okay, to bring it to Power Query, we have here a new table, as we see in the preview, and I'm going to change the name to holidays. So that's our new table. Just to make it visible, I'm going to duplicate this column here with the serials. I'm going to say duplicate column to make a new column and change the format in the new column. Okay. Let me say here duplicate. Then I'm going to change the type of value here in this column for date. So I'm clicking here the icon and clicking date. Then we can see the serial number as a date. Okay, so we have here some dates that this company considers holidays. And we are keeping the serial here because it's part of our purpose to make the performance as fast as possible. So using the serials, we can have a better performance, and that's why I'm keeping the column here as a whole number. Okay. Okay. So we brought here the holiday table. Let me see. That was our third step. Okay. So first we brought the task, then we create here the two parameters, and then we brought the table holidays. So 3 steps so far. Now we have those 3 structures, and I'm going to, just for organized sake, I'm going to create groups, different groups here to storage each structure of this that we just created. Okay. So for the table task, I'm going to right click here and I'm going to say move to group, new group. So I'm right clicking here, move to group, new group. And I'm going to create one query group specific for task. Why am I doing that? Because in the next steps, I'm going to create new structures out of those that we already have. And this way we can keep a better view about which structure is related to which structure. Okay, so I'm going to say the new group is task. Then I have here the group task, which has one structure inside, which is the table task. We just right click over it. Okay, and now I'm going to create another group for holidays to separate holidays from the parameters. So I'm going to right clicking here in holidays, move to group, new group. So right clicking holidays, move to group, new group. That's what I'm doing here. And as a new group, I'm going to say holidays. Okay. So now we have 3 folders, each one related to one structure. And the other queries folder has the 2 parameters that we are going to use as input to process, to make the calculations for each task. Okay. Our next step now is going to be, we are going to create a function inside the task group. Okay. So when you have a table here in Power Query, you can right click in the table and then you can create a function out of this table. Okay, so as I have the group now, the new function is going to be a new structure here in the same group. So let me right click here, create function. Power BI is saying no parameters found. That is no problem. We are going to use here a blank function. And then I'm going to bring the code, the function code that we saw in the beginning, that should be available for you guys to use too. So let me exit here. I'm going to say create. And I'm going to name the function here, diff work days. Diff workday is going to be the name of the function we are creating. Workdays, I'm missing here one day, 1D. Okay, diff workday is going to be the name of the function. Let me say okay. And then we have here the structure of a function called diff workdays. Inside this structure, we are going to go here on the top to the menu home, to the advanced editor. So here we can paste the function that I'm bringing here already done for the sake of time. Okay, let me exit here. I'm going to bring the function here. Let me say okay. I have the advanced editor here. So I'm going to delete everything I have here and paste the function. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to go deep in details of the function, but as an overview, I can see there are 5 inputs for the function. Start, work, and work are the times of the company every day, opening doors and closing doors, okay? Opening and closing are the beginning and the end of each task, okay? And holiday list is the list of holidays that the company considers. Those are going to be the 5 inputs the function is going to use. So out of those inputs, the function extracts the date, only the date from the opening, only the date from the closing, only the time of the opening, only the time of the closing, and makes a date list with the difference between days, between opening and close. Then it creates a workday list with the difference between the date list we saw here, that we have here in the holiday list. So removing the holidays dates from the list, okay? And then it makes all the calculations here. I'm not going to go into detail, but you can see here the expressions and the comments. And in the end, the function brings back the sum of work hours as a result, okay? So let me say done here. And then we have the function created here with all 5 parameters we were discussing. Starting end of the work, which are those ones here, the parameters we are going to use, okay? Opening and closing, those ones are coming from the task table. And holiday list, it's our holiday file here. So the function is going to combine all those inputs to calculate the business hours, okay? For now, the function is not connected to the table, okay? We are just creating the function, and we still have some steps to follow. So let me move on here. Okay, once we have the function ready, now we need to prepare the input which is going to come from the holidays list, okay? We are not going to use the holiday table as it is, okay? Here in the holidays, our fifth step is to right click here in the column holidays with the serial number, and then we are going to click here in add as a query, okay? So I came here to holidays table, I select here the holiday column, and right clicking the holiday column, I have here the option add as a new query, okay? That's the option I'm going to follow in the next step. So I'm going to right click here, add as a new query, and then we have here another structure related to holidays, which is a list. You can see here the different icon the object has. So the list is an object with less properties than the table, and therefore it can be useful to improve the performance of the calculations, okay? I'm going to rename here this list to holidays list, underline lists. I'm going to say enter, and we can see here only the serials of the holidays, not as a table anymore, but as a list, as a Power Query list, okay? So that's our 5th step. let's move on to now our step number 6. Here in the holiday list, we are going to improve some features of this structure to make to also contribute to the performance. So I'm going to come here to Home menu and go into the Advanced Edit Editor here. So that's the Advanced Editor for the holidays list, the new object we just created. I'm going to click here, Advanced Editor, and we have here the code for that structure. So here, what I'm going to do, it's in the end of the code before the in instruction, I'm going to say comma, and I'm going to add a new row here. So in this new row, I'm going to add this instruction here. Save time. And what we have here, in the holidays list, in the end, we are adding a row, line of the code, building a variable called holiday list, which is going to get the values of the list buffer from holidays 1, which was the final result we had before. Okay, so this buffer is going to improve the performance. And I'm going to copy the same name here to keep the structure of Power Query code to the end. So our last step now is not anymore holidays 1. Our last step now it's holidays list. And I'm going to say OK. I just added here with that new line of code, a new step applied, which is called holidays list. Okay, that's our step number 6. Let's move on to step number 7. And now, in step number 7, what we are going to do, inside the code, let me approach here. Inside the code of the table task, we are going to need to use those two parameters, okay? However, we need to do that by coding. In this case, we are using coding to add those two parameters inside the code of the table task, okay? And that's why selecting here the table task, I'm going to come here to the menu Home. And inside menu Home, I'm going to click here, Advanced Editor again. So we did one change in here in the code, holidays list, and we are going to do another change here in the code for test. That's going to be the first change in the test table. In the end, we are going to finish with the last change in the test code, test table code. So let me exit the zoom here. I'm going to say Advanced Editor. And here, after the second row of the code, I'm going to add 2 rows, okay? One row is to state one variable called start. I'm going to say here, start. And I'm going to add another row to state a new variable called end. So those two variables, start is getting the value of the parameter start work. If I store here the window, I can see here start work. It's exactly the parameter we created before. And end work is the other parameter we created before. So the idea is adding those two rows, those two lines of codes, to make the task table to have those variables available to use in the last part of the code we are going to do in a few steps, okay? So that's done. That's the step number 7. So let me say done. And our next step now is to create the column in the task table. We are going now to create the column using this function here inside this column. And the column is going to apply the algorithm of the calculation for each row of the table. So here, the team started to work in the task in this day, in this time, and finish work in the task in this day, in this time. So how many business hours I have here between those two moments. However, we are going to do the calculations considering the holidays list, the start of the working, and the end of the working. Okay, and the function also considers the weekends. It's not going that the weekend doesn't need to be in any input, but the function is going to consider the weekends too. Okay, so let's do that. Selecting the task table, I'm going to say add column, and I'm going to say here invoke custom function. That's the option I'm going to use in our step number 8. Okay, so let me click here, invoke custom function. I'm going to say the name of the column is going to be diff workdays, and that's the exactly name we gave to the function we created before. Remember, we created an empty function, then we paste the code that is already done for you guys inside the advanced editor. So let me go back here. I'm going to say diff workdays, and then we can see the parameters of the function we created. So now what we are going to do, I'm going to state values for each parameter, how we want the column to use the function in each row of the table. However, the inputs that I'm going to do here are not the final ones, because the inputs has to come dynamically from the code, from the parameters, from the holidays list. So here I'm going to change some of the parameters to ABC123. However, for opening and closing, we have opening date time and closing date time columns. So we can use those columns. So opening, we are going to use opening date time, and closing, we are going to use closing date time. Those two are already there, and we can use it here directly as they need to be. However, the other inputs, start work, end work, and holidays, I'm going to just type a text here, and then I'm going to change that to create I'm going to create here this way, the function with static values, and the function is going to produce an error. But then after we change the code, our error should vanish and we should have the results, okay? So start work, I'm going to say the exact name of the box, start work, just as a reference. End work, I'm going to say end work again. And holiday list, I'm going to say holidays list, because that's the name of the list which is ready for us to use. I'm going to say then okay. And we have the arrow we were talking about. So you don't need to worry. That error is expected because we didn't make the connections in the code before yet. So let me go to the menu home. I'm going to the advanced editor. And here, let me magnify the screen. We have in the last row, the creation of the function of the column using the function, okay? So you can see here, start work, end work, and holidays list, they are between double quotes, okay? However, opening date time and closing date time, they are here between square brackets. That means those are the actual columns, and they are already as we need them to be, okay? We are going to change here the other ones to make them dynamic. So here, for the start of the work, we created here one variable. That's the variable we need to use here inside the code, okay? So I'm going to remove the double quotes, and I'm going to keep just start here. And for the end, we also have here another variable that we created before in the code. We can use this variable here. And I'm going to remove the double quotes. And the last but not least, we have the holidays list. I'm going to remove double quotes. And in this case, let me restore here. Our holidays list name is the same name we have here. Holidays list, holidays list. Okay. So that's the structure we are using in this part of the code. And that's the final part. Let's see what happens. And we have the final result. Only missing one step. That was our step 9. And the last step is the calculation here. It's already correct, but as I mentioned before, the unit for calculation in between dates, it's the day. So those are serial numbers that we can multiply by 24 in a different column to express those same numbers in hours, okay? So here in this one, which is smaller, we have 2.25 days. So 2 days, if we multiply by 24, we should have 48 hours. And 24, 1/4 of 24, which is 0.25, would be 6. So 48 plus 6, we should have here 54. So let me do that here. I'm going to click in the column, add column, and then I'm going to say standard. So just to leave it in the screen so you guys can check. I come here to add column, standard, and then I'm going to multiply. So I'm going to add a new column, multiply this original column by some number, which is in our case 24. So let me do that here. Multiply, I'm going to say 24, and I'm going to say OK. Then we have here 24 hours for this task here that started in April 3rd, 2021 at 6:22 and finished at April 14, 2021 at 7:44. Now, let's go back to the slide so we can check if these results make sense, okay? Where I'm going to use this example here from the second row as a reference. So I'm coming back here to the slide and let's check the calendar, okay? We have here on the top the same table we had before, 54. That's our final result for the second row. And if we consider April 3rd, the task started here on Saturday, and April 14, the task finished here on Wednesday, okay? So if we consider those 2 dates, April, let me just access here the Zoom, April 3rd from April 14, we cannot consider the weekends. So the weekends have here red axis, and we would have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 work days. Okay, we in a first look. So 8 work days in a first look times 9 hours per day, which is the difference between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. From 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., we have 9 hours, 9 business hours every day of the company, right? In the normal shifts. So 8 work days times 9, we should have 72 hours. But we still need to consider more inputs. That's just one first look. If we move on to the next slide, we have to check the holidays. So in our holidays list, we have here April 6 and April 10 as holidays. So I mark them here in orange. April 6, it's here. April 10, it's here. However, April 10, it's already a Saturday. So this one should not change the number. However, this one has to change the number. So instead 8 working days, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 working days. So 7 working days, removing the holidays, which is in this case the one that we remove, it's April 6. So 7 work days times 9 hours, we would have 63 work hours, okay? But this is not still matching the result we have. There is still one last point to consider. If we move on, we can see here the time of the day when the task was finished was before the starting of the shift. The shift started at 9 and the task was finished here at 7:44, okay? So guys, the task was finished before the work time of the company. So we don't need we should not consider this day as part of the time that the team took, the business time the team took to finish the task. Okay, and that's why here we don't have 14 included. So we remove a 14, and we have in the end 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 business days, and that's the number of the days we need to consider for this reference we are using to check the values. So 6 work days, removing closing day before work start, times 9 hours a day, we have 54 hours, which is the result we got in Power BI. Okay, so that's the final result. We build the solution using the features, and we check the final result. Okay, so that's the idea, and that's what I wanted to bring you guys. I found it really interesting. I hope you guys can apply that if you have the same need. Okay, let me see here. Just recapping, we use it here. Power Query approach, we could have done that in index approach too, depending on your knowledge, right? And for this approach, we are considering large databases. So we use Power Query parameters, customized functions, and AIM language functions too. I think that's it. Thank you guys for being here and making your question. I can see now in the chat we have some questions. Let's talk about the questions. I'm going to stop here my my sharing. Let me know which questions do we have. Michael?
Great. Yes, thanks a lot. And so I'm going to give Chakshu, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I'm going to give him ability to speak. So he's got a question, so I'm making him a presenter.
Sure.
Right. So Chakshu, do you want to try and unmute? Okay, great. Yes.
Hey, old
You want to
friend.
ask?
Welcome.
Hi, Lissandro. Hi, Michael. Thank you for this opportunity. So a basic question on the functions that you have created in Power Query. So when we are defining the function, so we were not giving the parameters when we are defining it. We just simply gone and copy paste the code where we haven't given any parameter. But when we are invoking the function, we were given some parameters to retrieve the result. So there was a little disconnect, like I couldn't understand, like because I never worked on the extensively in the language M, which you were showing. So just wanted to know that how it works. Like, is it not necessary to give the parameter, or is it necessary to give the parameter to invoke the function? That part.
Sure. Nice. Thank you, Shakshu. Welcome, old friend. Shakshu is an old friend of mine. Thank you for your question. And that part you are asking about, it's actually kind of tricky. So let me share my screen again so we can go back to that screen and enhance the clarity in this part. So when you invoke the column, let me invoke here the column just to provoke the screen here. Let me say again. So here, this is when we invoke the custom function, right? So in this approach, we are making a adaptation in Power Query structures to connect the inputs to the code, okay? For most of the columns, we are going to just type here one text, and this text is not a dynamic structure. It's a static, just the static text string in the environment here. However, for opening, we can use the column, opening date time, and closing date time. And for the others, we could type here anything. A, B, C. We are in my presentation. I was typing start work. Let me just correct here. Start work. Just as a reference to make to create in the structure of the code a reference to know, oh, in this part of the code, I need to bring the dynamic structure for the start work. Okay. Same here at the end work. Same here in the holiday list. Okay. Then those three parameters, they are not, as they are not dynamic, they make this invocation of the function to produce an error. Okay, let me do that again. I'm going to say end work holiday list is the last one. Holidays list. Okay, so those ones are just references, but they are not exactly the way we need in the end. Okay, those are just reference that we are using to create the code with the parts that we can identify we need to make dynamic. Okay, so when I click here, okay, I'm creating the code without the dynamic structures. So that's why we have an error. But then we go back to the code of the table test to advanced editor. And here you can see now two parts of the diff workdays function. This one is the one I already did during the presentation. It's done, okay? And you can see the difference. Here, I have two parameters already dynamic, bringing data to the function from each row of the table, but I have three static parameters here. And as we did the structure of start variable, end variable, and holidays list before, we can just adjust here the code to make the code recognize, acknowledge those structures, those dynamic structures, and then the code works fine. Okay, I'm not going to do that here again because it's not in the sequence. So I'm going to say cancel and remove here the column. Shakshu, let me know, is that clear now?
Yeah, this step is clear. Can you just go on the diff work days function as well, which you
Here,
have created?
this one.
Yeah, so there was a code that you have written. So is this all that you have written? Yeah, this one. Just a second. Okay,
Okay, what is the
so
question
here,
about the code?
so I believe we are passing the parameter because we have given these parameter like start, end, and opening and closing holiday list here. So these are the first line of the code is the parameter we are talking about, right?
Yes, in the structure
Okay,
of functions from Power Query, it's a
okay,
good practice to state right in the beginning of the code before the let instruction. You state what are the inputs the function is going to need. So in our case, the function diff workdays uses 5 inputs. What time does the company start working? What time does the company finish working? What is the opening of the task? The task starting in which day and which time? And the task is finished in which day and which time. So our challenge it's from the between those two uh, moments. We calculate the work hours without considering weekends, without considering holidays, without considering non-work hours. And the last input is the holiday list. So the function is going to take in considerations all those inputs and removing weekends to produce the final result. Make sense?
got it. Thank you, Lissandro. Yeah.
My pleasure, my friend. Thank you for your question. Thank you for attending today.
Hey, great. Let me check. Any other questions? All right. So while we wait and see if any more questions come in, we always have 2 questions for every guest we bring on the session on the series. And so question 1 is, we would like to hear about your journey. How did you become a Power BI, expert and now do these full time. I know most likely you didn't start out in this direction, so it would be nice to hear, I don't know how far back you want to go. Maybe you want to go 20, 30 years back, but we want to always hear the interesting journey of the guests we bring on board. So we'd like to hear your
Ah,
journey.
nice question. Nice question. As I mentioned a little bit before in the beginning, my background is from business. So I am originally a business administrator, and I worked for many years as a business in business area, like a marketing analyst, sales analyst, financial analyst, HR analyst. So by that time, I already started to deal with a lot of calculations, KPIs, reports, and automations, but using Excel. And at some point, when I was a marketing intelligence analyst, then I met Power BI. So when I first saw Power BI, I felt like Power BI looks for me like a pivot table from Excel with superpowers. And it was funny to think about that because I was kind of thinking, oh my God, this tool makes everything I need to do in Excel, but better with more resources. And I need to learn about that. And then I start to be able to connect Power BI with the data sources that I usually use to create pivot tables, for example, in Excel. And this way I became more productive. Instead taking care of 20 reports, I was able to take care of 60 reports because once I did the report, the report could become automatically refreshed. So that was extremely useful for me. And then because I was applying this knowledge in my work, one friend of mine asked me to deliver a training to teach her team to how to use Power BI. And that's how I start my journey as an instructor on top of the professional using Power BI. And I think that's extremely fulfilling because I can bring together analytics and helping people. It's extremely satisfying when I see some students or some attendees saying, "Hey, Lissandro, I couldn't do that before, but the way you explained, I couldn't understand, and I could apply it to my work, and now I got these and these results." So it's when I feel like my mission is really done this way.
Oh, great. And I know you're very active. I think you do regularly a free training at Humber College because I do see students post the sessions and like, is it Power BI dashboard in a day or yeah. I hope
That
you'll
is
do
true.
one in I hope you'll do one in Toronto so people and well, I know Humber is in Toronto, but it's a bit like, will you plan to do one, outside of Humber College so people who aren't able to make those ones, they can
That
attend?
is true. Michael, actually, I finished my post-graduation in Humber College a few weeks ago, I think
Oh,
2 or 3
great.
weeks ago. And while I was taking class there, my college mates learned that I had experience with Power BI. And in our program, which is Business
Yeah,
Insights and Analytics, it's about data analytics, the whole program.
yeah.
And when they learned that I had experience with that, they asked me to deliver the training for them, my closest friends. I call them Team One. So I'm not sure
Oh,
if
I
they are
seen
listening,
T1
but
now.
yes, they are really closest friends, the smartest guys I ever met in my
Great.
life. And because of that, I delivered the training for them, just five close friends. And
Yeah.
then one of them suggested, as a volunteer to work in Humber College, that one student activity could be a training, Power BI training for Humber. So that's why we get to did 3 sessions. We did 3 sessions over this year, one in January, another in April, another in June, and the students were so interested. So I felt like it's something important for the job positions, and if I have experience with that, I felt like I could help them. And now I finished the program. I hope I can still go back there, but I'm also intend to organize sessions outside Humber to open public and make that part of my contribution to the community. I hope I can work this way too.
Wow, wow. This is this is noble of you to do. So the last
Thank
question,
you.
I'm also looking in case anybody is asks any question. Yeah, yeah. So the last question is, what advice do you have for people who also are coming from a different background? You know, you yes, it's a bit close, but I know you can relate better. You know, so maybe someone coming from a pure business role that does not require him doing analytics, or someone
Hmm.
else coming from a manufacturing role where it's technical, but it's not analytics related, you know. So
Hmm.
what advice would you have for people who are coming from that background and they want to get into the analytics space?
That's a nice question too, Michael. I think I'm a living proof that this can be done. I'm not from IT background, and I'm from business. And what I feel like all the business areas in general, they work with data, they work with
Yeah.
reports, KPIs, and the best way to really understand and move forward in the knowledge is to apply any tool you like to that specific task that you are dealing in your daily basis, which is familiar for you. I think that's when we actually assimilate the new concept, when we apply the concept to our reports, to our KPIs, to our results. And depending on your level of experience, you may start in one point or another point. But today it's easier and easier to do that.
Yeah.
Excel usually is more popular among business professionals, but Power BI is also very user friendly, and we call Power BI a low code tool.
Yeah.
So you get to build good dashboards, just clicking and dragging, pressing buttons, and this way it's a good opportunity for anyone to start to learn. There are a lot of free content over the internet that we can access and check and exercise. When we exercise, we actually assimilate. I think if you like the subject, if you are looking to get more closer to data analytics, those are the best steps I could say, and those are the steps I actually followed in my path. So I think that could be the best advice I could take.
Well, thanks. Okay.
My pleasure.
Uh, Thank you very much. And if I'll summarize, you know, I picked one key part that I know you said it early, but I just want to resound it because I think it's key to helping anybody who already has some experience in a different field. Is the fact that you said, you know, you began using it on the same in the same domain. So, you know, you had the business domain, then you decided to keep to use these analytics within the business domain so that you're using it on the things you're familiar with, and it helped to create more interest and you could do a lot more. So I just said I'm going to pick that out and make sure I make it obvious to people to try that approach to, you know, don't try to like discard what you already know. Try to see how can I add them, you know, these analytics to what domain I already have experience in. So
Hmm.
thank you very much. And
My
I'm
pleasure.
looking,
Thank
no
you,
more
Michael.
questions. So I think we will at this point just call the bring the session to an end, and
Okay.
say thank you very much for the very uh, well put together presentation, the explanations. You have the slide. You at some point you know you made your screen zoom. You did the annotations to help us point our attention to the right things, and you know you patiently answered the questions we asked. Thanks also to Chaksu for the
Thank you so much,
very
Michael. It's an honor
informative
to be here
questions.
today. And
Yeah,
congratulations on the initiative. I think you guys
uh,
are doing a great work.
thank you very much. Yes, thank you, and have a wonderful week, everyone. Thank you once again, Lissandro. It's an honor to have you. Bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
Michael. Bye,
Yeah,
Thank
guys.
you.
bye. Have a
Have a
wonderful
good weekend.
week.
Bye bye.